Welcome. Welcome. I'm so happy to see all of you here. I'm glad you're here. Um, it's going to be a good day. We've got lots of things to talk about. So, before we get started, let me just introduce myself. My name is Stephen Gould. Um, I am the senior program specialist here at the CBO, Colorado Broadband Office, and I've been here about 6 years. Um, and I've probably had a lot of conversations with you at some point if you had a grant with us through the High Cost Support Mechanism Program or the Broadband Deployment Board. So, um, but that's all ancient history. We're going to talk about something completely different, and it's called our Advanced Local and State Dollars program, AKA Advanced Locals. So, before we get started, I just want to let you all know that if you have any questions, please raise your hand or put something in the chat. And I'm happy to just kind of stop and take those questions kind of as they're happening in real time. So I kind of prefer that so you don't have to try to remember what you were going to ask there. So, um, as I said, this is our new program. It's called Advanced Local. Kristen, you want to go to the next slide, please? So, with that, I'll just let's kind of just start with our mission. You know, the our mission is basically to award state funding for middle mile. I don't know if you all knew this, but our large focus, at least for the next few months, is going to be focused on middle mile. So, last mile and non-deployment projects, the Advanced Local Program will complement federal broadband infrastructure programs and ensure we connect 99% of Colorado households to high-speed internet. So that's a tall order, but I think we can do it. Um, so let me just talk about the agenda. I just kind of did an introduction. Kristen, go back one more slide. We're going to talk about the timeline. We're going to talk about critical resources, minimum requirements and award criteria. We're going to talk about the scoring evaluation. And most of all, we're going to talk about the portal and how that's going to roll out starting tomorrow. So, next slide, please. I'm trying to move along with the Kristen in real time here, so bear with me. So anyway, what this program also does is it builds upon the former program, and we're going to move into, you know, even though I said it's a lot of it's mainly focused on the middle mile projects. That's the core focus. But we're going to do middle mile projects. We're going to do short term construction. We're going to do you know, like pole audits, replacements, non deployment, all kind of things like that. But for the purposes of this webinar, we're strictly going to just focus on middle mile. So I just want to make that clear. Next slide, please. So here's kind of our timeline. I'll just touch on this briefly so you can kind of get an idea of how this is going to flow in terms of rolling out this tier one, what we call tier one effort of middle mile. The portal opens tomorrow, April 30th. Yay, 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 yay. And closes in 60 days, which is June 29th. And then we go to publish the internet, on the internet, the award list. We'll have an appeal window, and we will publish the challenge results, and we'll do agreement execution. So all of this is going to happen from April all the way to October, and that's estimations tentatively. So we hope it flows like that. I'm pretty confident that we can pretty much stick to that timeline there. Next slide, please. I wanted to basically put the resources up front because this is going to be what I think is kind of the holy grail of information. We have, um, I think it's very important that you gather up these resources first as you prepare to, to apply for a grant. And that's our, what is it? That's our guidelines. So I encourage you to go to the website, get the guidelines. And what we also did for Middle Mile was create an addendum that specifically focuses on Middle Mile. So you'll find yourself going back to these resources quite often. So it's very important that you read them, make sure you understand. And unfortunately, we won't have enough time to take a deep dive into all of this, but we will offer some office hours and so forth to to keep you updated and to answer questions and all of that. So next slide, please. So what do you have to do to be considered for a middle mile grant? Well, you've got to meet the minimum requirements. And I'm not sure if this is in depth as maybe BEAD have might have been, or I think it's kind of around the same thing as the Broadband Deployment Board um, minimum requirements. So it's not too bad. But anyway, um, you have to be eligible. And of course, you got to complete the application all the way. I would recommend not leaving anything unanswered. Right now, but don't please don't be discouraged. Right now, it's just middle mile projects that we're looking at, the broadband network speed, and of course, you have to have some sort of matching funds because we want you to have some skin in the game as well. But and if you remember from the last program, it was a minimum of 25%, and I think it's still that. So um, project readiness will factor into that. Regional broad plan and need. This is pretty important. Sustainability and reasonable cost. Okay. Let's see. I made it up to myself. So make sure I'm going to keep emphasizing this throughout our time together here is to make sure that you go to that middle mile addendum because it has so much information in it and it gives more detailed descriptions of everything that I'm talking about here. This is just kind of like little titles here and stuff, but go get the descriptions and stuff and see exactly what all of this means. Okay. So in the portal, I think it's well, Krista, go to the next slide, please. So in addition to that, what we've done with this program is if you got a grant through the BDB last time, you probably remember that we had a board. And one of the biggest problems with that was that the meeting quorum. So we no longer have that, but we went to an awards based, what am I trying to say? Evaluation and scoring matrix to evaluate your grant. So you can earn or score, should I say, up to 115 points. And it's based off of this. You can see the point structure right there. And again, go look at the addendum to understand the definitions and the descriptions of each of these. So the purpose, open access, matching funds, reasonable costs. And you can see some of that overlaps with the minimum requirements too. So if you're meeting those minimum requirements, we know you will meet some of these awards, some of this award criteria too. So you've got all of that. Again, the addendum, the addendum. So Kristen, go to the next slide, please. So I arranged this a little bit different to in other words, to get you prepared to submit your application and all the things that you're going to need in preparation before you log into the system and all that stuff. finance, it's much more robust than our last program. So we're asking for a lot more information than we did, but not as much as if you applied for a BEAD grant. So that's the good news. But we want to see the financial statements, certification and registrations. Next slide, please. Project documentation, location area lists, and this is probably going to be a huge deal. We have a workbook that we created. In that workbook, asks for a lot of information, and I guess it's to determine the stability of a company. We want to know that you're stable and that you are equipped to take on um, what you're proposing to build. So it's very important that you gather all this information. It'll make it a lot easier for you once you log into the system and decide to move forward with your grant. So we got project financial data. Um, we got documentation covering capital costs, operating costs, funding sources. What's going to be your matching source? Um, Gosh, Brian, am I missing anything? I feel like I'm missing something there. Anyway,
I think that's about it. Yeah, we'll get
okay.
that posted in the next day or so, so folks can take a look and then follow up with any questions that they may have.
Yeah, and everything I'm saying here is also in the addendum as well. So there you go. Once again, I said addendum. So um, that's just how important that is. And I want to say it's going to be a lot of uploading of files. So when you upload those files, make sure that the naming conventions are correct, because when I see it on the other end, I won't have to click through everything and try to figure out what it is. I'll just be able to look and see, okay, that's this. So um, next slide, please. And this is what I just previously spoke about, was the workbook. And this is something that you'll be able to download and prepare before you actually go in and apply for the grant. And it asks for all of this information. You'll see we ask for the milestones and kind of what your timeline is in meeting some of those milestones, capital costs, operating costs, project cash flow, summary, and it gives you a summary output. So, and then we want the details on what your funding sources are for your match. Next slide, please. So before, let me just pause there to see if there's anything in the chat or if there's any questions so far. I think there might be something in the chat. So let me just take a second pause.
Stephen, Maisie's got her hand up, and I can read comments in the chat for you if you want.
Yeah, that'd be great. Macy, what's going on?
Hi, Stephen. Thank you so much for hosting the webinar.
Absolutely.
I have a question on the award criteria. So award criteria 1 is purpose and project impacts for 25 points. And it states that the project will either A, facilitate deployment of high-speed broadband networks to currently unserved or underserved areas, or B, improve affordability, et cetera, et cetera. And I believe the definition of unserved and underserved, I think you guys are going by the 100 by 100 standard. And I am wondering how CBO is determining what locations are unserved versus underserved. Through BEAD, there is a ton of location data released. Well, the location list, I should say. It's my understanding that there won't be a list of locations released for this program. So I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around how prospective applicants are supposed to identify what locations qualify as unserved and underserved.
Maisie, it is an excellent question. And which one of my esteemed colleagues wants to take that on?
I can start. So, hi everyone. This is Brian Martin, the senior manager for CBO. So we anticipate for middle mile. No, I was about to talk about last mile, which is absolutely irrelevant at this point. So
Brian,
with
I can jump in.
yeah, thank you, Megan.
Um, yeah, Maisie, it's a good question. That that is not relevant for the middle mile portion of this grant program. It will be relevant for the last mile portion, which is not launching tomorrow. Only the middle mile portion is launching tomorrow. So we'll release additional guidance on last mile in the coming few weeks or month. And
Yeah,
that will include all of that information.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the clarification. And I did want to just say, and maybe, yeah, the middle mile addendum that I'm reading off of does specifically list unserved and underserved areas as part of the award criteria. So that is a little confusing um, since it does specifically list unserved and underserved areas in the award criteria, but it sounds like that's actually not part of the award criteria.
Yep, nope, that's a valid point. We'll go back and look at that. But
Okay,
thank you.
great. Yeah, any clarification there would be helpful. So that's all I've
yeah,
got. Thanks so
and
much, guys.
yeah, you're welcome. Izzy, thank you for that question. And I will add to that this is going to be because we're rolling out something brand new here. So this is going to be a journey together. And I'm sure you're going to run across things that are going to need more clarity and things like that. And that was the perfect example of that. And so as we take this journey together, um, we're going to run into those things, and we're happy to address them and make fixes as necessary. So, Maisie, thank you for the question. I think there might be. Can we take a few more questions from the chat before we move on? I think there might be quite a few things in there, and let's get some of it out of the way if we can.
Sure. Okay, Drew asked if the meeting will be posted on the CBO website. Kristen replied, yep, they will be available on the CBO website. Stephen, Diana asked, I read in the guidelines that the first round, which focuses on middle mile, will fund fiber networks with CAIs, also prioritizing cellular service. Is building a tower that is fiber fed an eligible expense? And I can read Judd's answer, and then if you wanted to expand on it, Stephen, does that work for you?
No, let's hear what our esteemed
Okay.
AG has to
I'd
say for
also love
sure.
to clarify too what my
Oh,
question
go
is.
ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
So I understand that the grant is not being used to subsidize fixed wireless services, but the grant is targeted for enhancing cellular service. So I've got two clients that I know off the top of my head that they want to fund middle mile fiber infrastructure to areas that they have very little cell service. So they want to also potentially include the addition of a tower facility, like for example at Quandary Peak. There's no public safety or cellular service at that location. Summit County would like to build fiber to that facility and put a cellular tower there. So the purpose would not be to fund fixed wireless services. It would be a true middle mile network funding the fiber to that location, but also then building a cell tower where they could install cellular service and public safety equipment.
So Diane, with that, are you asking if you just kind of tell us what you're doing, or are you asking if that's something that we would fund? Is that
I'm asking if through this grant, would you fund the cellular tower materials and labor in addition to the fiber that feeds it?
I don't know
Judd,
that
is that something? Oh, go
I
ahead,
don't know that
Allison.
we've considered that. Diane, can we get that answer back to you in a fax document?
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you.
Another great question. Let me move on, and then we'll take a few more questions in a little bit here. So this slide here, I wanted to talk about the advanced local work group, because instead of having that a board like we did in the previous program, we now have a work group. And the purpose is, like it says on here, provide oversight. So it consists of 7 members from various sectors. That group will meet quarterly, all meetings subject to quora, may be tasked with following the following responsibilities: request and review applications and so forth. So I think that's going to be a good thing in helping us determine which projects we decide to go with, because we do need, also it's for transparency purposes, and those kind of things. So that's going to be a good thing. And I want to know if there's anybody has any questions right now that might pertain to the work group and what their responsibility is. I don't know, Allison, if you're seeing anything in the chat that might talk about oversight and all that kind of stuff.
Sorry, I had trouble
Fantastic.
getting myself off mute. No, I'm not seeing anything right now, Stephen. Yeah, related to that. Apologize.
So anyway, that they're going to assist in helping and make recommendations and all that kind of stuff. So Brent said something in there. I can't. Brent, we'll get back to your question here shortly.
Yeah, it looks like a couple of additional questions came in about the Middle Mile program. Let me know when you want those, Stephen, and I'll read them out for you.
Yeah, let's do it now. Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start back up at the top. And I'll read some of these out. I know they're not specifically related to the Middle Mile program, but just for the recording, for people to be able to see them because they won't see the chat. So, Janae asked if we could drop a link in the chat for the Middle Mile addendum. It's in the chat for everybody who's on the call, but for those of you watching the recording, you can also find it on the Broadband website. Jeff asked, is there 2 years worth of HCSM revenue sitting in the fund since the passage of HB 1336? So that's question 1, and then the second question is how much will be available for Tier 1 and Tier 2 grants this year?
That was a great.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Stephen.
Great question. So yeah, 60% of the funding is devoted to middle mile projects, and yes, there is some carryover from the previous program. So I think this first cycle, we might be working with approximately 27 million thereabout,
It's
and
between
then
20 and 27. Yeah.
Okay, so and then we anticipate, I don't know, 13 to 14 million. And I should tell you that this is going, even though we're rolling this out in 2 parts, this first cycle, this is a program that will do awards annually, once a year. We're just going to have 1 cycle, whereas before we ran 2 cycles, which was challenging. But we're going to be doing 1 cycle annually. So I hope that answers your question. So yes, there's rollover, and we're working anywhere from 20 to 27 million this for the first cycle or first tier.
Josh asked, will there be discussions on the call around local funds supporting things like Lifeline and digital literacy?
Yes, there will be, but to your question there, for this particular webinar, we're just going to focus on the middle mile because that's where we're going to roll out first. But yes, there will be, and 40% of our funding will be dedicated to those sorts of things. So non-deployment is what you're asking. So yes.
And then Brent asked, can you tell us if carrier-neutral internet exchange points are eligible for funding on a standalone basis to improve network interconnection, peering, and more efficient traffic routing? It appears that such a project would meet the scoring criteria because of its impact regionally, but it's unclear whether it would be eligible without having a fiber build component too. To preserve carrier neutrality, it would be ideal if IXPs could be eligible without having to partner with a network operator.
Yeah, Fantastic question. My super team of broadband folks on here, who wants to take that on? Super team? Who can shed some light on that?
I think we're going to have to take that question back and get it into the FAQ. So thank you. It's certainly an interesting concept. Yeah, I think we'll have to revisit that and come back to you. If you're welcome again to follow up with an email to our general inbox, and then we'll make sure we get these questions into the FAQs to be published next week.
Yep, absolutely. So, yeah, we intend to answer everything and get answers and stuff. Could be some stuff on here we won't be able to answer because they're just fantastic questions, and it might have been things that we just didn't think of. For now, let's go on to the next slide.
Okay.
The portal has finally been built. And I've been wanting this for so long, and I'm so glad that we finally have it. But I will tell you that if you did a BEAD application and a CPF and all those things, and you went online and you did the portal, the two systems are not connected. So information that you might have put into the BEAD portal or whatever is not going to transfer over to this particular portal. It is its own standalone thing specifically for the advanced local program. So yes, you'll be putting in all of your information again and starting from scratch. So just so you know. So as we said, the application portal is available on the advanced local website. Applicants, I think you've probably already been notified about the opening, and there's instructions to apply via the listserv. Hopefully you've been getting the messages and things like that. Applicants will be able to go to the portal and register and submit applications starting tomorrow. And you can find the link on the website, which is what this slide is. When you go to the website, this is what you see, and you click on that little bar there, and you are off and running. Next slide, please. So once you do that, this is what you get. You create, click on the link, takes you to this screen. Applicants will need to begin their registration process by clicking on not a member. And that's where that arrow is pointing down there, because obviously you haven't set anything up as of yet. So that's kind of what you see. Next slide, please. So what it does is after that, it takes you to all this information. And this is just basic information and setting up your company information. Pretty simple. That walks you. There's not much I need to say about that, really. You can kind of get the gist of that. Next slide, please. So what it does is once you do that, it sends a link to your email box. Click on the advanced login page, link to begin your application, create a new password, and so forth. And I would say, don't forget to check your spam folder, because you know how some of these things, go to your spam. So next slide, please. I see some more questions popping up in the chat. So Alec, can we take a few more questions? Let's see what we got.
Allie had to hop, but this is Kristen, and I'm happy to keep us moving here. Okay. I believe, okay, so we answered the funding question. Are we up to whether or not, will there be discussions on this call today regarding local funds supporting programs such as Lifeline and digital literacy?
Oh, we already got answered that one.
Okay, sorry.
So the answer, no worries. The answer was yes.
What about the carrier neutral? Did we go through that one?
We did not. And
yeah, that one I think we'll try and circle back on, to use the commonly used phrase, and kind of make sure we get you a good answer, and in addition to posting it in the FAQs.
Yeah, because that one was kind of deep. That
Yeah,
one
we'll have to think.
requires getting back to you type of thing. So um, to address the slide that is now in front of us. So once you get in there, you're all registered and you are ready to do it. And you see a thing on there that has that red underline there. That is basically you're ready to apply for funds. So you click on that and bam, next slide. It takes you to what type of grant you're going to select. And right now, since we're just focused on middle mile, the only active thing that you can click on is the middle mile. The rest of the options are not going to be live right about now, but those will roll out in a couple of months. So do not despair. Next slide, please. And once again, once you get to this slide, you're going to select the middle application link. And I see James. We'll get to your question in a second, James. It just popped up on my screen here, but I do see it.
Let me know. I can read through them.
All righty. Yeah, we'll just get past this slide because it's pretty simple. You're just gonna click on the middle application link, and boom, that actually starts the application process. So next slide, Kristen. So what I wanted to share with you, instead of showing you the actual page of all this information, I just made it simple because off to the side of that, you'll see the legend that has all the categories that you'll be completing. So this legend represents step of the application category you will need to complete. It's important that you consult both the program guidelines and the user manual as you navigate through the application. And oh yeah, I forgot about that. We have a user manual too that is going to be on the website as well. So these are all great tools, and I'm sure they're going to come in so handy for you. You're gonna really be grateful that you have them. I'm grateful that you have them. I'm grateful that I have it because this is new. So Brian, let's take a few questions.
Sure, that sounds good. There are a couple here that I do want to address. So during BEAD, we had to sign a certification stating that we would not accept additional funding for any of our BEAD projects. What is the definition of a project? Is this specifically the BSLs within that project, or does it also include mainline fiber to reach those BSLs? And again, my perspective, I want to circle back to you on this one, and make sure we get it into the FAQs because, yeah, I have to think about it a little bit. Yeah, go ahead. Are there other questions?
No,
So let me know.
let's do one more.
Okay. Well, I've got about 5 to run through. So, will BABA and NEPA be required as part of this funding program?
Super team, anybody want to chime in on that? Judd, I feel like you might know the answer to that.
Yeah, I think I can say no to BABA. That was a federal requirement. And NEPA may be required, if you're going across certain lands, but we'll have to get back to you on that one. But no to BABA. On CPCN, Brian, did we decide I think we just dropped that. And I think the second part of your question is uh, certification that we have filed annual PUC contact forms suffice. In any event, that would suffice. I think that's all we're collecting
Yeah,
here.
I think so. Yeah. That does
Um,
get covered in our user guide as well.
yeah.
How to fill that in.
And then on the open access, technically, open access is not a requirement, but it is a scored item. So to the extent you're providing fair, reasonable costs on your open access to the middle mile part of the network, that will be scored.
I hope that that gives that person a little bit of comfort. in answering that question. Open access to facilities or services. They say open access to facilities or services.
I'd have to go back and look at the addendums, the piece that we have on that. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but yeah, we'll certainly circle back on that for you.
Yeah, because I believe it's things that we definitely cover in the addendum in our guidelines and everything and all that. So that's why I keep, once again, addendum, word of the day, addendum.
Guys,
Referencing
the
that.
reason I ask that is we often IRU or lease small quantities of fiber to generate services to deliver, and we don't have the ability to resale the fiber asset itself. But that is part of developing a middle mile network.
Well, I would say to that, Corey, as long as you're staying in that realm of middle mile, it's all good. But definitely something we can circle back around and give you a more definitive answer on it. So, thank you for the question. I really appreciate that. These are all fantastic questions. So, and like I said, this being so new, it's even new to us too, folks. So, keep the questions coming.
I did want to address one that I didn't want to make sure we missed. Somebody asked about collaborators in the portal for your application. So at this time, there will be one person who's able to submit the application, and adding additional collaborators, I don't believe is available at this time. That's something that we're working on for your future cycles. But I would suggest, to collaborate offline with the questions, and then when you're ready to kind of load them into the portal and start to the application submission process. So no, unfortunately, we don't have that capacity at this time, but that is a plan for the future.
Yeah, and that was the perfect answer for that, Brian. That's absolutely right. So that's
Could
kind of where we
include them in your narrative, though.
are.
Yes, yeah.
Let's see here. Let's go to the next slide. As we said, this part of our program is just dealing with tier one, which is our middle mile infrastructure. Next slide, please. And just kind of touching again on the amount of funds that we have for our inaugural grant application cycle here, which is basically does not connect directly to end user locations, direct interconnection facilities, must facilitate the provision of the broadband service at speeds not less than 10 gigabits per second. May include interconnections or CIAs located within 1,000 feet of the middle mile infrastructure. I'm wondering if somebody has some question around that. I see some hand claps. Yay! Or a hand clap. Thank you. Next slide, please. The middle mile strategic priorities. The CBO is particularly interested in middle mile projects that support. Look at that list there. I'm hoping this is like a big help in clarifying some of this. CIA coverage that can be later support underserved and unserved area locations, identified routes by middle mile stakeholders, redundancy to prevent a single point of failure, connections for ISP, advanced and emergency. Just as I was reading that, something popped up, got in the way there. I'm sorry, I said emergency. I meant emerging industries, cellular connections. Any questions around that? Does that all make sense? Reliable public safety. That's good. All right, let's go on to the next slide. And this is just some reminders. We're pretty much at the end of this presentation. visit that website for resources, review the guidelines for relevant information. Best thing to do is probably gather all the relevant information before beginning. We hope that you will take the time and read the minimum requirements and award criteria. This is really important. It's going to be a big help for me. Is to use the correct naming conventions. I wish the system was more, defined that more clearly. Unfortunately, it doesn't. So naming conventions are going to be really important. That workbook, complete the workbook, is going to be a big deal. And I'm sure that you will have questions about it. And I'm sure we'll be sorting some things out, but we'll get through it. In that workbook, it's specifically designed with formulas and calculations and things like that. So I think we've given you enough space to, put all the information in that you need. But I would recommend, not recommend, do not add columns or rows. If you need them, please let us know. We'll adjust the spreadsheet for you because of those formulas. So, upload the correct format. I think a lot of things you're going to be asked to upload are going to be PDFs and Excel sheets. I think is the big deal there. But if you don't, the system won't let you move forward if the correct file format is not uploaded. Judd, I saw your name pop up in the chat there. So you asked something. I think I may have forgotten something. Do you care to just share it with us?
Yeah, I just made a clarification. We're trying to roll out middle mile, last mile in a couple months, and I think I misspoke on because of one of those slides. It said it's middle mile is fiber only. Last mile has a preference for fiber, but can be fixed wireless. And we'll have to circle back and address that IXP question. If there's no fiber component, seems like a good use for middle mile or to enhance the middle mile, but we'll get back to you on that FAQ. Yeah, and I think we could address that too, Corey, the free space optics to reach CAIs.
All right. Well, let's see. Let's go into the next slide, which is simply questions. I know it's a lot of information. I should probably mention the office hours. So we are having office hours. Our first office hours will launch on May 14th. So I encourage you to go to the website and register for that. And I got a feeling once we start seeing things come in, we'll have some more answers and be able to be more specific about some things and kind of get your feedback on how the system is working and all sorts of things. So I think that first office hours is going to be really informative. So I hope you all can show up for that. So let's take questions. We got some time. So feel free to come off mute or raise your hands or don't be shy. Brian, do we have any more questions in the chat that we might have missed or?
Yes, we do. I'm working through them right now.
Okay.
I did address the most recent one that just came in with an answer, but someone asked about the portal questions in one of the guidebooks without logging in. So we have a user guide that should be coming out, or it's going to be published on our website tomorrow. I believe that's the plan. If not today, then first thing tomorrow morning when we open the portal. And that covers every question that's in the portal and gives some instructions and explanations on how to respond to them. So that is our plan, and then you have additional questions to those. We have our office hours set up, and then we have our general inbox where we'll get back to you as quickly as possible with a response. So there will be an opportunity to see them.
Yeah, I didn't know how long the presentation was going to go, so we didn't know. I didn't go super deep into a lot of things that we could have gone into in this presentation because of the addendum and the user guide and the guidelines and stuff. So much is in there that I think once you start using those tools and you still have questions, you'll be able to zero hone in more on what your questions is. But I think those resources will kind of help you navigate pretty good. So
yeah, and then
and I
someone had a
think
question on dark fiber. Wanted to see if Judd can assist us with that one. Is there a requirement or preference to provide lit services, or would dark fiber middle mile be acceptable? And can we please share the definition of open access?
Yeah, I think we'll have to get back to you on that one. I mean, I think one of the questions is, how ready is your project? Do you have ISPs that are willing and wanting to connect to this piece of middle mile? So having dark fiber, you're a little bit more out into the future. And then I did put the definition of middle open access in the chat. And if you have comments on that definition, you'll want to expand it, send us some comments to the advanced inbox.
which if I saw, I think Kristen, you dropped the
The general
email
inbox
address.
email.
Yeah, into the chat. Somebody had a question. I think I saw something, Brian, pop up about authentication. Is it a two something?
I'm looking now.
Let me stop interrupting and let you go
That's a
through the
lot of
mid-order here.
questions.
How about
I'm
that?
trying to keep on top of every one of them that's coming in. So thanks everyone for your patience. If we miss something, feel free to shout out. So we don't want you to miss it. So authentication, I am struggling to see. If someone had a question on that, could you just turn off mute?
Is there a two-factor authentication process?
Thank you.
There is not.
No, it's a register, you get a password, and then you access. So
Yep. So I can just answer that.
yeah.
No.
And again, folks, like we understand that, if you've had experience with our BEAD and CPF projects, with the platform, the Salesforce platform is similar but not. There's things that we're working out to figure out what makes the most sense, and how can we make the user experience as easy and convenient as possible. So as you use it, we'd love to take suggestions to make sure, because this is, for now, the long-term future of CBO, and I want to make this as convenient and accessible as possible for you. So suggestions on the portal are always welcome, but it's a little kind of simplistic compared to our previous platform, and we're working to make it better. So thank you for all your help with that.
Yeah, this is going to be the flagship program, and intentionally it is not as complicated as BEAD. Even though I was just on the periphery of that, I know, but I heard a lot about it. So I kept saying this could not be a BEAD thing, and everybody listened to that, so it's a good thing. Brian, you got any other questions in there? What say you?
I don't see any. So if I have missed one, please let me know.
Does anybody want to come off mute and ask any questions? That means we did a fantastic job, is what that means, right?
Exactly.
Only
and again, like Stephen said,
to circle back
hours.
to. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm doing my best. But like I said, this is going to be a journey for all of us, and I'm happy to take that journey with you all. It's been 2 years in the making, and a lot of you I know and I've worked with, and I'm excited for this next step of diving into middle mile, which I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot about. But like I said, don't get discouraged, because there's still last mile, there's still non-deployment, and all those other things that we will touch on in the very near future. And before we wrap up, let me just thank all my colleagues on here that helped bring this thing to life. It has been quite the journey, and everybody's been fantastic. Judd and Megan and the whole team just really
Bro, if I get
guided
one more bad
through
bounce.
this. Yeah.
Question. I didn't
Yes.
hear any additional information regarding the local funds. Where can I obtain additional information regarding the grants and availability for those?
Do you mean for the
Oh,
non-deployment portion?
I do.
Yeah, if you look at the guidelines that are published, they're generic for last mile, middle mile, non-deployment, and short-term construction. And then what we're doing is we're adding an addendum for each of those. So we have the addendum for middle mile, but in the baseline guidelines, which there's a link up in the chat, we define what we mean by non-deployment, which would be digital equity, things like that. It's defined in the guidelines.
does that
Okay.
help? Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes, I'll check those out.
As we've mentioned, we'll get additional information on those the other tier. So we generally
Yeah.
refer to them as tier one being the middle mile, and then tier two being the short-term construction last mile and digital equity
Non-deployment.
access. We'll get more information on those probably in the next month. That's the plan to kind of launch those because we wanted to make sure we got middle mile. It's such a large component of this program. We want to get that one out and ready, and then we're following up with the other tiers to make sure we have them correct. So.
Definitely, all that stuff is rolling out. So I didn't want folks to be discouraged because that stuff is coming. So, but the purpose of this webinar was to focus on middle mile because it is a big portion of our funding. So, any last minute questions before we wrap up? It's been a pleasure speaking to you all, and I look forward to working with you going on this journey. So, anything else? And with that, I am going to say adios for now. See you all soon, and I look forward to working with you. Okay, everybody, take care.
Thank you, everyone.